There's a sentence everyone repeats because it sounds wise. Money doesn't buy happiness. It's usually said by people that have money to those that don't. And it sticks because it's kind of half true. Money doesn't buy happiness, but a lack of money reliably buys a life of stress, anxiety, and small challenges and limited decisions. So today I want to think about something that people never properly examine. What is the relationship between money and happiness? And this is not like a big motivational, super positive speech, but it's not the bleak, dry, money's the only thing that matters side of things either. Because if you get this wrong, you don't just feel confused. You end up building your life entirely around the wrong incentives. This question, does money make you happy, never dies because we're always testing it. You're testing it when you get a raise. You're testing it when you buy something expensive. And you're testing it when you meet people that are much richer than you and there's that part of you that feels like you don't quite measure up, or even worse, feels envious. What's uncomfortable is that both sides are lying to you. The money is everything crowd ignores emotional decay, and the money doesn't matter crowd ignores material reality. The truth is messier. Money isn't happiness. Success isn't happiness, but both shape the terrain on which happiness can be built. And if you don't understand that distinction, you can end up chasing the wrong things in life or rejecting the right things when they come along. Let's be precise. Money does three important things in life exceptionally well. First, money reduces chronic stress, not acute stress, chronic stress. It's that stress of, can I afford to pay my rent this month? What if my boiler breaks? What if the fridge breaks? I can't afford this, right? That worrying, anxious stress that gnaws away. Scarcity hijacks your attention. When money is tight, your brain narrows. This is not some kind of theory, this is behavioral psychology. Research shows that financial scarcity limits your ability to think in the long term and to problem solve. You become more impulsive, more anxious, and worse at strategic thinking. So these worries, this scarcity stress, restricts your ability to become more successful in life. So when people say money doesn't buy happiness, what they're missing is money buys mental bandwidth. And that mental bandwidth is so important for your long-term goals, your success, your money, and in turn, your long-term happiness. The second is that money buys optionality, and options are invisible until you don't have them. The option to say no to a job, to say no to where you live, or to say no to a toxic client, right? The list is endless, but the option to say no is hugely important. Optionality is power, and power used well creates stability, not ego. The third is that money protects you from small indignities, and these often get missed out because it sounds a bit ungrateful, but money protects you from having to argue with utility companies, chase discounts and deadlines, and choose between quality and affordability. None of these small indignities destroy happiness on their own, but they eat away and erode it daily. Large-scale studies in positive psychology, such as Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton, show that emotional well-being rises with income, but it comes a point where incomes get high enough that there are diminishing returns for additional income. So there comes a point where money stops buying more happiness. But that point is much higher than people pretend and much lower than strivers assume. The real shift isn't about income, it's about what money stops doing once it stops reducing your stress, once it stops increasing your options, and it stops increasing your free time. It changes roles from a tool to a scoreboard. And that's where things start to break. Money is neutral, success is not. With success comes comparison, and you stop asking yourself, am I safe? Do I have enough? And you start asking yourself, am I winning? Winning is infinite. There is always someone ahead of you, more impressive, more intelligent, richer, more admired. Success moves the goalpost from sufficiency to status. And when it comes to status, there is no finish line. That's why so many high achieving people feel so strangely flat. They're not unhappy because they're losing, they're unhappy because the game never ends. Here's the psychological mechanism that quietly ruins everything. It's one of the most important findings in psychology, and it's called hedonic adaptation. First formalized by psychologists like Philip Brickman, it says that we return to a baseline of psychological well-being after positive or negative changes. So you adapt to the nice house, the external validations, the nice purchases, the higher income and the nice holidays. So what felt extraordinary now feels normal, and your happiness depends on your acceleration, not your arrival. This is why chasing happiness through success feels like a never-ending treadmill that speeds up every time you get close. It's not that you're broken, the system works exactly as designed. Here's the part that never gets said clearly, and this is where psychology, not motivation, matters most. Happiness is not a feeling that you chase. It is a feeling that comes around when a few fundamentals are met. Across decades of psychology, from self-determination theory to modern-day well-being research, they find a few common pillars. Predictability. Life isn't constantly on fire. Agency. You have a real say over how your days are spent. Belonging. You are meaningfully connected to other people around you. Alignment. How you live roughly matches what you say matters to you. Notice what's missing. Euphoria, luxury, winning, fancy things, fancy holidays. Most of what sustains happiness is quiet, unglamorous, and repetitive. And this is where money and success get misused. Money can support predictability and agency. Success can sometimes increase autonomy, but neither creates belonging, neither creates meaning, and neither can decide what a good life looks like for you. When people feel empty after making it, it's usually because they've outsourced those decisions to a scoreboard. Most people aren't miserable because they want too much. They're miserable because they're optimizing for the wrong metric. Money becomes the proxy for safety, freedom, self-worth, and respect. Success becomes the proxy for identity, meaning, and the idea that all of this struggle was worth it. But proxies always fail under pressure. Money is terrible at providing meaning, something existential psychology and philosophy has been pointing out since Viktor Frankl. Success is terrible at providing peace. Happiness isn't something that you maximize, it's something that you protect. You protect it by deciding, early and explicitly, what is money and success allowed to do in your life and what they're not. Money won't make you happy, but pretending it doesn't matter will just make you stressed and resentful. Success won't fulfill you, but rejecting it entirely will leave you unfulfilled and small. The real work is knowing when money has done its job and not turning your life into a continuous performance review. If this helped you see the game more clearly, please subscribe. Not for more motivation, but for clearer lenses. Because once you see the incentives clearly, you stop blaming yourself for reacting rationally to a broken system.